Narrative. A citizen journalist branded a troublemaker for reporting on the Wuhan outbreak pays the price for speaking out. Also on the programme, European coronavirus vaccinations begin amid questions about why production of the drug can't be speeded up. And Donald Trump backs down from his threat to veto a $900 billion coronavirus relief bill. So why did the outgoing president change his mind? I'm Phil Gale. Welcome to the programme. Chinese citizen journalist Zhang Zhan has been sentenced to 4 years in prison for reporting on Wuhan's COVID-19 outbreak during the early months of the pandemic. Ms. Zhang was detained in May after posting videos criticising the government response. Lawyers for the 37-year-old say she's been on hunger strike and is in poor health.
Police pushing journalists back outside the court building where yet another journalist was being sentenced. 4 years behind bars for citizen journalist Zhang Zhan. The charges, picking quarrels and provoking trouble. Zhan has been imprisoned since May. She went on a hunger strike, and her lawyers claim she was force-fed through a nasal tube. After I explained to her what kind of punishment she could expect, she was determined to follow through with her hunger strike, come what may. I reminded her of the risks, but she said she knew in her heart what she was doing was right. During the lockdown in Wuhan, Zhang Zhan put up critical posts on Twitter and YouTube, both blocked by the Chinese government. Her reports dealt with everyday problems in hospitals and official corruption. Zhang Zhan is one of several citizen journalists who ran afoul of the authorities in Wuhan. There are many similar cases of human rights abuses in China. You never hear from these people again. Some are allowed to go home, others disappear. Zhang Zhan is the only one to actually end up in court. The government has reacted harshly to any criticism of its handling of the coronavirus outbreak. It appears determined to stop journalists like Zhang Zhan from muddying the official message that its response was both swift and effective.
Well, DW's Clifford Coonan has reported from China for many years and can tell us more. Welcome, Cliff. Tell us more about what Zhang Zhan did that got her into so much trouble.
Well, basically what happened was after the pandemic broke out, there was one narrative, which was the official government narrative, saying that everything was under control, that China had been timely in issuing information and in starting the lockdown, which wasn't the evidence that was seen on the ground in some cases, and so she reported on this. And so by challenging this narrative, she brought attention to some deficits in the response, even though it was a very effective response in many ways. So, and that's what she's being punished for now.
Well, despite the attention Zhang Zhan's case is getting, she's not the only citizen journalist to fall foul of the authorities.
No, I mean, there's 3 others on trial around Wuhan. There's Chen Chu-shi, Fang Bian and Li Zehua. But we also have Hayes Fan, a Bloomberg journalist. She's been arrested and accused of endangering national security. And it's part of a broader picture of a crackdown on journalists. China had 47 journalists in jail this year, which is one less than last year, which puts it very near the top of the, or at the top of the number of journalists in jail. So it's part of a broader picture of China keeping a very, very tight control on the media, particularly in relating to stories about the pandemic.
So given that China now has the virus largely under control, why have the authorities gone after these people?
Well, in some ways it seems counterproductive because they have done such a good job in actually keeping the pandemic under control. And they had a tough lockdown, but it was very popular in China and people are happy now that they can operate normally. I think what we're seeing here is very much a power play, that it's a reminder that China is very keen to keep a lid on media freedoms. And it's also the time of year around Christmas. For some reason, you see a lot of legal activity in China. We also have, because they know that the West is not going to be really watching as closely, so you have people like the Hong Kong youths who tried to escape to Taiwan who were arrested. They're going on trial. 10 of them are going on trial today in Shenzhen as well. So it's part of a broader picture, I think, of China showing, particularly now as it's coming out of the pandemic, And there's a new president coming in the US that China is showing its strength.
OK. Clifford Coonan, thank you for that. Let's take a look at some of the other stories making news around the world. A Saudi court has sentenced prominent women's rights activist Loujain Al-Hathloul to 5 years and 8 months in prison, according to local media. Ms Al-Hathloul has been held since 2018, along with other activists who campaigned for women to be allowed to drive. But part of her sentence has been suspended, meaning she could be released in February. Police in Cameroon say at least 37 people were killed when the bus they were travelling in hit a truck and plunged into a ravine. 10 women and 4 children are among the dead. The bus was on its way to the capital Yaoundé from the west of the country. European Union member states have given provisional approval to the post-Brexit trade agreement with the United Kingdom, allowing tariff-free trade with Britain to continue when it leaves the single market on January the 1st. The deal still needs to be ratified by the European Parliament, which is expected to happen in February. Now, a coordinated mass vaccination drive against COVID-19 has begun across the EU. Thousands of people have now received the BioNTech Pfizer vaccine. Limited supplies of the drug mean member states are prioritising medical staff, nursing home workers and the elderly. The shortage has sparked debate within Germany, where there are now growing calls for the government to step in and ensure quicker production of the vaccine. German Health Minister Jens Spahn says the government is working with BioNTech and Pfizer to provide additional production capacity, but stressed the process can't be rushed.
I'm amazed that some people have the impression that vaccine production, one of the most complicated and challenging fields in the pharmaceutical industry, could just simply be ramped up at will in the coming weeks to start producing extra vaccine doses elsewhere in Germany or Europe. To do this, preparations need to be made. Those preparations are underway, and our goal is to soon be producing additional vaccine in coordination with BioNTech.
German Health Minister Jens Spahn. Now, after delaying a decision for nearly a week, US President Donald Trump signed into law a $2.3 trillion pandemic relief and spending package. The president backed down from his threat to veto the bill and from his demand that Congress increase stimulus checks for struggling Americans from $600 to $2,000. The president had previously condemned the spending plans as a disgrace. The bill will now restore unemployment benefits to millions and avert a shutdown of government services. US policy analyst Liz Schulke is a former Obama campaign official. She joins us from Berlin. Welcome to DW. Why has President Trump changed his mind, do you think?
When Trump launched his kind of opposition to signing this bill and took the stance of the $2,000 stimulus, he both wanted to garner all the attention in the room as well as really thought he'd have the backing that frankly just was not there. Republicans on the Hill are signaling they're tired of this political theater. There's incredible pressure from folks at home saying, this is not the time to volley politics back and forth. It's time to bring real relief to real families. And so I think rather than kind of getting in the fray and risking his neck, he saw that he didn't have the support and had to back down from his stance.
Right. So $2.3 trillion, it sounds like a lot of money. Do you think this is going to be the end of it, or will there be further relief measures?
Well, just tomorrow they're going to vote on a standalone bill that provides an additional $1,400 to folks to bring it back up to that $2,000. It's going to be in the House with Democratic support, to be determined how the Republicans rely on it. I think throughout the process, this has been a patchwork measure. And rather than looking at this is a long pandemic, and even with the vaccines rolling out, the impact on the economy is going to be felt for years. So I think it's undeniable there is going to be further measures down the line to prop up small businesses, extend unemployment, and help struggling local governments.
This has been a Biden commitment, has it?
Biden has talked about that this isn't the end, that he's going to come in strong. He's going to focus on working families. I think a lot of Democrats have already signaled the most recent COVID relief had nothing for student loans, had nothing for local governments. and felt that it was really underserving small businesses. So I think they see a lot of gaps that can still be filled in.
Donald, it's been said that one of the reasons that Donald Trump objected to this was because he's perhaps eyeing a campaign in 2024. Do you believe the Republican Party would welcome such a campaign from him?
That's an interesting question. One I think the Republican Party is grappling with. I would not be surprised to see a Trump campaign in 2024. I'm not sure if it would be Donald himself or perhaps a Trump successor. I think the Republican Party has 4 years to really look in the mirror and decide, yes, this got them a lot of attention. And there were a lot of, Trump is an incredible political operative. So it garnered them a lot of things that they wanted, but also at an incredible cost and an incredible risk to American democracy. So I think there are a lot of people who've been biding their time in the Republican Party who are going to step up and say, that nearly cost us everything. We can't go back down that road.
Good talking to you. Thank you for joining us, US policy analyst Liz Schulke.
Thank you all for having me.
The global health emergency has thrown many sports events off course, including the biggest of all. This year's Summer Olympics has been postponed to next year. Organisers insist the Tokyo Games will go ahead next year, but not everyone shares that confidence.
The Olympic rings are back in Tokyo Bay, a sign of hope that the 2020 Games will likely take place despite the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. We want everyone to feel that the Tokyo Olympics will happen next year. The excitement leading up to the Games was all lost when the pandemic hit.
Breaking news, the 2020 Olympic Games will be postponed for a year because of the coronavirus pandemic.
Die Olympischen Spiele von Tokio werden ins Jahr 2021 verschoben.
A decision that was long overdue. Many athletes had already said they wouldn't attend, but the International Olympic Committee and its president, Thomas Bach, seemed to lack a clear response. At times, they came across as clueless.
We don't have a blueprint. We have no experts to refer to.
The athletes initially remained pragmatic. They trained inside their living rooms. But a year without any competition pushed them to the limit, both financially and mentally. The organizers remained confident. IOC President Thomas Bach claimed to have a set of COVID-19 countermeasures at his disposal. He sent a message of hope to the athletes directly from the Olympic Village in Tokyo.
You will never, ever forget these moments in the Olympic Village in all your life.
But there is a catch. We want to be considerate to the athletes. We don't want the village to get crowded. When the Games are done, we want the athletes to leave as soon as possible. The Olympic Games will look very different from previous ones. There will be hygiene measures in place and perhaps a limited number or no spectators at all. The uncertainty is a huge blow, even for the locals. Nearly 13 billion euros have been spent on the Games so far, 2 billion alone on the postponement. Many locals are starting to question if it makes sense to hold the Games at all. A large number have already returned their tickets. COVID-19 has brought a new level of uncertainty, one that will decide if the Games will come to pass at all.
Swiss tennis star Roger Federer will miss the Australian Open for the first time in his career as he continues to recover from 2 rounds of knee surgery, according to his agent. 39-year-old Federer hasn't played competitively since the last Australian Open in January. He's currently training at his off-season base in Dubai. The pandemic means the Australian Open has been delayed until the 8th of February. Federer hopes to return to competitive tennis at the end of that month. The 5-time end-of-year world #1 is now in 5th place in the ATP World Rankings. That's it, you're up to date. I'll have more for you at the top of the hour. Up next, Monica Jones has your business update. Have a good day.